basically we posed the question, I laid out a scenario: will WWE buy TNA? And by buy TNA we mean, you know, purchase them in the background or give them a bunch of seed money and just kind of leave them off their own way. We're not talking about a, a crossover or an invasion or any of that kind of thing. But here's what some of our listeners had to say. So Michael Burns 734 says, not a
Man,
chance.
Michael. Of all
Uh,
the 735 Michaels, the 734th one was always my favorite.
Not a chance WWE will have TNA. TNA is looking for its own identity after the whole Hulk Hogan thing, which I get. I mean, I would kind of be of the same opinion um, as that. Like the Hulk Hogan scenario was truly horrendous. Martin, I don't think you've seen a lot of Hulk Hogan stuff, have you?
I've seen what we've covered, but obviously, as a resident TNA historian, I haven't seen it to the same extent as yourself.
Yeah, I had to live it, and I'm in no rush to live it again. But yeah, basically, so what Michael's saying here is when Hulk Hogan came in, he did fundamentally wipe TNA. He changed the entrance music, changed the entrance itself, got rid of the six-sided ring, changed the way it was done, the way it was produced. It fundamentally wasn't TNA when he showed up, and it was Bischoff as well that was there, so it wasn't just Hulk Hogan. So I do understand that. I don't think TNA would do that, even if WWE were to buy them. What we're saying is they won't come in whole hog and change everything. What
Yeah,
what we believe, if this was to happen, is that TNA will be doing its own thing, but won't have to worry about money per se, which is a problem that TNA has had in the past.
yeah.
But obviously,
I
Mark,
think the other thing to remember is that TNA is not really just TNA anymore. So we're today we're going to talk about the Who Killed WCW documentary, and
yeah,
like one of the big aspects of that was the kind of non-wrestling side of the company, the TV executives and the
yeah,
people who had shareholders and all that. So it might not actually be down to TNA to make a decision. Uh, but what I would say is I completely agree with Dara. If it does happen, I don't think it'll be like an outright public purchase or anything. I think much like they used to do with ECW in the past, they'll keep up the pretense that TNA is a separate entity, and we'll see the occasional crossovers like we have with Jordan Grace and obviously Joe Hendry.
say his name and he appears.
He appears. It's a lie, though. I go to bed every night and I shout it out, and he never appears.
No, he's there. He's there
Watching.
watching. But yeah, no, because it's interesting, right? Because on that point, Martin, Mike Jones, 4830, made a very good point, which kind of ties into that. He says, answer no, but check out what Anthem did with NVIDIA FC, and you'll get your answer. So I looked into it, and NVIDIA was actually sold to Anthem. NVIDIA are a female only MMA
Oh.
company, and yeah, they're kind of off in their own sphere. And that's kind of what we were saying. We were saying that because Anthem is already very much connected to WWE from in the TKO side of stuff, that's what we were kind of angling at. I
Yeah.
don't think, like, for one moment, I don't think, WWE running TNA is the answer. That's silly. We've seen that before. We've seen it with ECW, like the WWE CW. We've seen it when they tried to do WCW. It just doesn't work. People reject it. But I do think having that kind of deal is exactly what we were talking about on the podcast, where
Yeah.
TNA is off on its own. It's doing its own thing. It's maybe touring, having some pay-per-views or PLEs as they call them as well. I mean that's a huge sign right there, right? Um,
What?
like
Oh
a massive
no!
sign.
Are TNA
Yeah,
calling them that now?
yeah, they are. Yeah.
Oh God! And you
No, but
said
hold
it
on.
wouldn't change them.
Well, it's not them. It's, as you said, it's the corporate structure, right? Um. So yeah, I agree with that, and I will still say that if we do get this, it'll be a thing that it's a footnote somewhere. It won't be a huge announcement. Obviously, it'll be in the trades or something like that. But I don't think it would be a game changing thing. Here's how you do it, right? WWE buys or TKO buys majority stock or stake. I don't think TNA are publicly traded. I could be wrong. Anthem might be.
The fact that they're not publicly traded, I think, the fact that they're not publicly traded might make the whole thing easier to
yes, it would.
To kind of keep
under wraps.
Secret, yeah.
Yeah, like that's kind of why I'm dancing around this here. If TNA is publicly traded, which I don't think they are, this would have to be announced immediately. Because it's not, they can just buy them and go, look, it's part of the deal. You don't tell anybody. You know, we just give you money. We were able to set up certain things that we want to do, like having Jordan Grace, Joe Hendry. Frankie Kazarian was there as well. I mean, everybody forgot about Frankie Kazarian, which I feel bad about. But it was like, he was there too. He's a massive TNA star. And yeah, like I just...
And former AEW, like you think they'd make a big deal out of that.
But again, it just shows you that like this thing does go deeper than just a working relationship. Like obviously, NXT is their feeder brand, but one of the complaints that they've had about NXT is that it doesn't give them as much exposure. It's limited in a certain way, and then again, like TNA is there, they're touring, they are doing their own TV. It can get like, look at Trinity or Naomi, right? I was not a fan of Naomi in WWE initially, right? I thought she was fun as the Funkin' Axels, and when I saw her wrestle in Glasgow, after watching her before going to the house show or before going to the tapings, I was like, right, she's like a different person,
totally
right?
different woman,
totally different person.
I wasn't at the Glasgow show with Dara, but I watched the tapings that they did in England before they went up to Glasgow.
Yes,
totally different woman.
But that's what won me over. I was like, oh my god, her working with TNA has rebuilt her into this actual main eventer, like a bona fide main eventer. And I think
here, this is the reason any wrestling fan out there who wants, you know, such and such a company today or such and such a company to be the only one is an idiot. Wrestling needs competition. It needs alternatives.
It's not that it needs alternatives of competition. I agree with you on that, but it needs different styles. You know, like if you've read Chris Jericho's book, look, Chris Jericho, modern Chris Jericho is a different man to, you know, Y2J, but his book is quite a good template where he'd move around, go to Mexico, go to Japan, WCW, ECW, WWE, and they get to learn different things. Learning the WWE style in and of itself isn't bad.
Are you telling me that you have sat under the learning tree?
But learning the WWE style necessarily isn't a bad thing. But when it's the only thing you have, that's very limiting, right? And it's you know, I don't think that's what, you know, we've seen that WWE can't do that, right? Like the main eventers that they have now are all TNA guys. Even in AEW, a lot of the main eventers are TNA guys. You know, it's
actually a point you'd made on a different show we'd done, that the final revenge of TNA was that top guys in the two main companies are TNA guys now, even if TNA is not getting the credits.
And their agents. You know, Jeremy Borash is backstage booked as an agent. Abyss is backstage as an agent. You know,
that's right. Yeah,
all these guys are there
quite well. Abyss has booked some of like the WWE's best received matches.
He absolutely has, because he had some of TNA's best matches as well. And it's cool that I think WWE finally gets the value of TNA. You know, and AEW of course does as well. But it to me, and we'll close on this segment out on this. To me, it just doesn't make any sense to risk having TNA fold when they can be like, right, we can actually use this. This has value. We were joking about the NWA before we went on. The NWA has no value. It's a complete joke of a company, right? And the
And it's a
reason why,
pity because it
and
had such like a prestigious name for a long
yeah,
time.
but mismanagement, that weird pay-per-view angle that we talked about with the cocaine, and
But
it's like for no reason, and
what do the
losing
young ones like these days? Cocaine.
and we're not joking, folks. That happened on TV for some reason, and it cost them the TV deal. Um, you know, I think WWE's fear is here, right? We're working with our people. We're open this. We're bringing in people. They're like, we got to make sure. Okay, we're not going to strangle them to death, which is what Vince would have done. But we have to make sure there's some kind of like, some kind of guardrails, so we don't have a random cocaine segment, or we don't, something like that, where nobody looks good from it.
All the things we've seen Vince do over the years. That's where I draw the line, folks. A random cocaine segment.
But that's why I think they're doing it. They want to have some stronger control on, or not even control, just assurances that, like, right, if we book Joe Hendry, he's not going to get injured. He's actually going to show up and be very well received. It's the highest rate, that segment. That segment is the highest rated social media clip in history of WWE.
Here, way to go, Joe. Who is having a better 2024 than Joe Hendry?
Nobody. Man,
Nobody.
I said
killing it.
I said it to you when I saw that gimmick live. I said, that is the greatest gimmick of all time. And it is. It's just, I don't know why it works. It just works so well. But look, that's what we think. That's what our listeners think, guys. If you want to comment on that, I am going to clip this and put this up on YouTube. Let us know. Do you disagree? Do you think we're on the money? Do you think we're completely off? We'd love to know, and we will, of course, talk about it on the show.
And we genuinely love to know. So comment on, like, wherever you find us: YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, OnlyFans, wherever you find us. Drop a comment, and we'll chat about it on the show, and we'll chat back to you as well.
Absolutely, because it's cool to talk about wrestling
because we're so lonely.
Well, I mean,